was reading recently that you've given out over 6 billion naira already. What has your experience been? What type of businesses are you focused on funding? Has it been the social businesses or just businesses that are venture backable, that are making money?
Two things come out. One is there's incredible entrepreneurial ability in Lagos. And if there's been one constraint or one frustration, it's been as a fund, we just haven't had enough money to solve the entirety of the problem. And I don't think there's one institution that can ever have enough capital or mobilize enough capital to solve this problem in its entirety. The other thing is, there's a lot of, and I think some of the work that people like Nickhead do, that's the real heroic work, because there's a capacity problem across entrepreneurship. And I've experienced that firstly running an SME book for a bank across Nigeria. I've experienced it even more running what is effectively a social impact fund. I've experienced it as an individual investor in early stage businesses in the country. So across every spectrum, there's this capacity problem. And it really, I think, I mean, and you know, at the risk of speaking controversially, I think it really stems from the fact that there's no training ground of sorts for people who want to be entrepreneurs. Now, my preferred path to entrepreneurship would be first gain some experience, right? So I think in Nigeria we have a lot of accidental entrepreneurs. It's, in my opinion, disguised unemployment, right? So you do NYSC, you don't have a job, and then you're just like, you know, what are you doing now? I run a business, right? What does your business do? You really can't say. But then the next buzzword is, you know, people like Kola have invested in hundreds of businesses, so everybody's now like, I'm a founder, right? And anyone can do a PowerPoint deck, right? And so next thing, you know, you do a PowerPoint deck, you know Noble calls Kola gives you 5 minutes, you pitch your stuff to him, you know, and then all of a sudden you're like, you know, I'm a tech startup founder, you know. You're not doing anything, you know, you're just wearing a cool t-shirt, dressing like Steve Jobs all around the place. So the reality is that, look, this stuff it's hard work. You know, entrepreneurship is really hard work because the reward for risk is profit. You know, you're taking incredible risk, you're putting your life, your blood into this business, you know, so, and when you talk to people like me, for example, at the risk of, you know, not sounding disrespectful, I meet thousands of entrepreneurs every day. Or well, not every day, but across my work, I meet thousands of people. Why should we support Mr. A and not Mr. B? You know, this thing isn't like, don't people go around saying, oh, you know, government, they don't fund us. Look, every time people say to me, oh, I applied for your loan, I didn't get it. I'm like, well, sorry about that. That's the reality, because I don't know who gets the loan, I don't know who doesn't, right? It's not, we can't pick the winners. There's a process. There's some rigor. There's some discipline. And there's nothing that says even if you follow that process, you will be successful. Because there will be someone who potentially has presented a better case than you. So you find that just preparation is a big problem, right? So we say to you, for example, you've got to submit your LASRA card, right? You don't submit the LASRA card. Do you think anyone is going to call you to say, we're evaluating your application, there's no LASRA card? No one is going to call you because they have 40,000 applications to look at, right? So they move on to the next one that has complete documentation. And so I think that the real challenge is, I think sometimes entrepreneurs don't know how many of them are competing for limited resources. And therefore they don't really understand the importance of putting their best foot forward. You've got to recognize, you know, people like Kola can do the sexy stuff, right? So they'll fund MDAS, fund Flutter Waves, all these guys. They're making great impact. They're helping micro enterprises, in some regard, even trade better. But if you think about the population of the country and where the country really is at, 80% of your entrepreneurs are not people that will come into this room. Right? That's a fact. You know, this is not their space. So their space is in Alakuko, it's in Ojuwoye, you know, it's in Alimosho, you know. That's where the people are. You know, so that's the reality of the country. So we are a social impact fund. We've got to go back and say, where do we meet most of these people? Most of these people are people that need 50,000 to 100,000 naira to change their lives. You know, and I can tell you, like, you won't get triple digit growth, right? But what you get is you get better healthcare outcomes, for example, because now they can pay for their wives to go to antenatal, right? Now they can send their kids to school. So when we say to them, you go and get health insurance, these are people who have never been insured ever in their lives. right? So the social impact of what we do means that you've got to go to the micro enterprises a lot more. And the truth is, you can see some incredible growth in that space. And I always use one of my great examples is a young kid from Lasso who we gave 250,000 naira for his laundry business, right? He's hired 18 people. His WhatsApp stories, which I now follow quite religiously, tells me that he's doing a fast food business now, right? So he's generally morphing into a serial entrepreneur, and he's testing all of these things within the broader Lasso community. So he's washing clothes for his fellow students, he's making food now for his fellow students, he's, believe it or not, now seeded his sister to start a smoothie business, right? Now, so if you are telling me about growth, that is for me incredible growth, right? And it's lateral, it's across sectors now. What you have to realize is that the primary issue here is people need to feed, people need to stay alive, and that's what even spurs consumption. Because if this bottom of the pyramid, if they don't consume, then the big businesses the bet we're all taking is that there's a large consumer economy in Nigeria. That bet isn't on the 500,000 or 1 million of us who are the 1%ers. That bet is on moving many of the 190 million people up, increasing the disposable income in those households to make them effectively a middle class that these products can target. So they're very complementary. Now, to the question that you didn't ask me, which is around debt. You know, when you started this conversation, there seems to be some bias against debt. Now, but because I've been a lender for all my life, right, you know, you've got to recognize that the debt conversation and the cost of borrowing is a structural macroeconomic conversation. There is nowhere where one of the few crazy people that lend below the risk-free rate. There's nowhere where government borrows, the federal government of Nigeria, a risk-free note can be issued at 12 or 13%, and you expect any lender to lend to any business below that price. Which is why, effectively, what you have the banks doing today is parking 50% of their deposit in treasury bills, right? So it starts from your risk-free rates. It starts from inflation. If you lend at below 11.2%, you are lending underwater. So you've got to deal with the structural problem. So I always like to defend my friends who are lenders that, look, you can't blame these guys. Plus, in today's market, if you are doing real SME lending, you are losing at least 10 to 20% of that money. So when you add that risk premium, I mean, you do the numbers, there's no way you can be profitable at anything below 20%.